Let's look at combining like terms. Combining just means we are going to add the terms together, and the intent is to end up with fewer terms. So, what does like term really mean? Like terms would be something like 4n, 5n, 3n, where we have the same variable. We can also just combine integers, so -8, 12, -3. Even if we have a fraction, 1 2/3, those would be considered like terms because I can combine them together to make fewer terms. Unlike terms would be something like -4n, 3p, maybe 4x. Notice the variables are different. They have a different value. We don't know what they are, but if they're a different variable, that means they have a different value. So we cannot combine those. Before we start combining like terms, let's talk about we need to simplify what we call here. Sometimes we have a double sign or the expression looks a little messy. So what we're talking about in this problem here is I have a plus and a negative. So just recall that adding a negative is the same as subtracting a positive. So before you combine any terms, make sure to rewrite this as 4 minus 5 minus 8. Now in B, we do have some variables in here. So let's look at this. Where do we have double signs going on? Right here I'm subtracting a negative, and in here I'm adding a negative. So let's simplify that first. So -2 would just be -2. Subtracting a negative is the same as adding the positive. This is just -8. And adding a negative is the same as subtracting a positive. So we want to make sure that we get rid of those double signs and clean that up. The next thing we want to talk about is being able to identify actual individual terms. If I'm combining a term, what does that really mean? Well, we have to be careful that we make sure we get the sign in front of each term. So if we were separating these, all right, -3n is a term. -6 is the second term. +4n is the third term. And -12 is the fourth term. So -3n and 4n would be considered like terms. Additionally, -6 and -12 would be considered like terms. Over here, 52 would be my first term. Notice we don't put a positive in front of the first term, but we know this is a positive. Then we have a +3p, -18, +2p, and -8r. So our like terms, if we're just starting with our integers, I have a 52 and a -8. Those take care of my integers. Now I have a +3p and a 2p. Those would also be like terms. And down here I have a -8r. It's the only r, so there's nothing else there that I would have been able to combine with this. So now that we've talked about taking care of signs and identifying terms, let's talk about how to combine like terms. So the first thing we're going to do is let's separate these terms so we don't mix up any of the signs. So I have a -3n, a -6, a +4n, and -12. So there's our out of order, so let's put our n's first. So first this would just be -3n plus 4n. I've taken care of those. And now I have -6 minus 12. Well, now I can just combine my n's. So I'm just looking at the coefficients here. If I have -3 and a 4, all right, -3 plus 4 is 1. So this means when I combine these, I would have 1n. When I combine -6 minus 12, So negative 6 minus 12 is negative 18. So we would just put minus 18. Now, since this coefficient is a 1, we don't have to write that. We can rewrite this as n minus 18. It is understood when there is no coefficient in front of the variable, it's a 1. Now, notice our two terms here. We have an n and we have a negative 18. So we generally put our variable first, but this could also be written as negative 18. This is a positive n plus n. So be aware, these are the same expression. They would have the same value. All right, let's look at our next one. We have 52, so let's separate that off, plus 3p minus 18 plus 2p minus 8r. So we have 5 terms here. So let's go ahead and rewrite them. I have a 52. Now my negative 18. Now I have some p's, plus 3p plus 2p, and last minus 8r. Let's go ahead and combine. So 52 minus 18 is going to be 34. Then 3p plus 2p would be plus 5p. And I have to bring down my minus 8r. There's nothing else there. So I've combined it, started with 5 terms, wound up with 3. Okay, let's try 2 more here. Here I have negative 45 minus 6n plus 3n plus 15. So let's go ahead and combine our integers here. So negative 45 plus 15 minus 6n plus 3n. So negative 45 plus 15 is negative 30. And negative 6 plus 3 for my n's. Negative 6 plus 3 would be negative 3. So this would be minus 3n. Now, to get our variable as the first term, remember my 2 terms here are negative 30. And then I have a negative 3n. So if I'm just reversing the order of these terms, this would be negative 3n minus 30. So my answer could be written as negative 30 minus 3n or negative 3n minus 30. Now generally this would be the best way to write it because we usually put our variables first. Next, we're going to box off our negative 12 plus 4p plus 12 minus 8p minus 3. So let's combine negative 12 plus 12. And then I have plus 4p minus 8p minus 3. And negative 12 plus 12 is just 0. So now I have 0. But look, I have my minus 3. I forgot to combine that and put that here first. So I'm going to do that now. Plus 4p minus 8p. So 0 minus 3 is negative 3. And then plus 4p minus 8p. So 4 minus 8 would be negative 4. This would be negative 4p. Or if we reverse our 2 terms, this would be negative 4p minus 3. Now, sometimes we will have combining like terms with some parentheses. Whenever we have addition between these two, all we do is drop the addition symbol and bring down what we have inside the parentheses. So we just want to clarify here, this is a positive 5n here. So I get rid of the parentheses, minus 4n plus 8. I can just drop that and bring down what I have inside the parentheses. So this would be plus 5n minus 3. And when I combine my n's, I have a negative 4n plus 5n. That would just be 1n. And then I have 8 minus 3, that would be plus 5. Or we could write that as 5 plus n. Here, again, if we have addition between the two parentheses, I'm just going to drop that and bring everything down that's inside the parentheses. I can drop and drop. So negative 9 minus 3, drop this. Now I'm going to bring down negative 9n plus 8. So negative 9 minus 9n would be negative 18n, and negative 3 plus 8 would be plus 5. Or we could also recognize that as 5 minus 18n. When we have subtraction between the parentheses, this means that I'm going to take the opposite of what's inside these parentheses. So again, we'll end up dropping this operation symbol, but I'm going to take the opposite. Notice this is a positive 5n. This now becomes negative 5n. This was a negative 3. This now becomes a positive 3. And we're going to drop our parentheses for the first two terms. And now we have negative 4 plus 8. We drop this and take the opposite of each of these two terms. So now we have negative 4 minus 5. So that would be negative 9n. And then 8 plus 3 would be 11, or 11 minus 9n. Let's do one more. Again, we have subtraction here. So that means we're taking the opposite of these two terms. Since this is negative 5n, that means I would have plus 5n. Since this is plus 8, it now becomes minus 8. And then we drop. And we get rid of our parentheses, so negative 9 minus 3. All right. And now negative 9 plus 5 would be negative 4n. And negative 3 minus 8 would be negative 11. Or negative 11 minus 4n. All right. Y'all have a great day, and thanks for checking in.